Hi, y'all. Beautiful tribe. How you doing? It's Gina here. Too much woman. I hope that you're well, loves. I wanted to pop on really quickly. I just came off a my very first call. May is for Magic, which is a group mentorship program that I'm running for the month of May. And the theme was to stop making ourselves wrong and to actually give ourselves permission to be right. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that my Too Much Woman story is that I have a history of collecting all of the pieces of myself that I've been told are wrong, too emotional, too sensitive, too dramatic, too smart, too sexy, too blah, 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 too voluptuous, and morphing myself, like checking them off one by one and morphing myself to be more acceptable, more pleasing, to be more of what everyone wants me to be. Hey, Pam, how you doing, beautiful? And so the theme in my group today was, how can we make ourselves right? I want to give you an example that is very present for me right now. During this pandemic, my sleeping is way, way off. And I say off in quotations because there's so much still judgment around it. My sleeping's been way off. I've been going to bed like 2, sometimes 3 in the morning, and then sleeping in, and then taking like some random nap somewhere in the day. I know, right? And so I've had so much shame and judgment around it because, look, I come from a world in the personal development world that says anyone who is successful, who has their shit together, gets up early, and is very productive in the early morning hours. And I actually had a conversation with someone on Facebook yesterday. I love you, Peter. Um, but here's the thing. There's Robin Sharma, who I love, monk who sold his Ferrari, famous dude, has the 5 a.m. club. I think it's now it's the 4 a.m. club. It just keeps freaking getting earlier and earlier, right? But I used to make myself crazy trying to wake up in the morning and be productive. I'm like, okay, that's it. That's it. Everybody says that this is what you have to do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get up. I'm going to set my alarm. I'm going to get up. I'm going to be really productive in the morning. I'm going to be really creative. I'm going to write things. I'm going to do my work. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to be phenomenal. I'm going to kick ass at this morning thing that they keep telling me I need to do. And it caused so much stress, so much resistance, so much freaking cortisol in my body, so much shame because it never felt good or right. So much counterproductive behavior, trying to get myself to sleep early and then I wouldn't. So I'd still wake up early and I'd feel like shit. Anyways, I spent so much of my life doing this. And if you were to ask my mama, I was never good at waking up and springing into action. Even after a nap, I am like molasses. I wake up and it takes me a while to get the fire burning. It takes me a while to stoke the flame. It's like I roll out of bed and I'm slow and I need to just go pour my coffee and then I need to sit with my coffee and I need to just be slow. This is how I wake up. Doesn't matter if it's a nap or doesn't matter if it's in the morning. And then I slowly get into the rhythm and I slowly start to move and I start to warm up, my mind muscle. And this is how I work. And I have peaks during the day when I'm super creative. Like right now, this is my time when I'm super on fire. And then I go down a little bit and then I come back up. And I've noticed this about myself. And I have resisted it my whole life. My mother's a morning person. So she was like, wake up. So was my best friend, Rena. Like they wake up and they're like chirping and they want to talk. And I was just like, ugh. And I had so much shame around not being that kind of person. And I am interviewed maybe 20, 25 times a week. That's probably the most common question. What's your morning routine? And I used to lie. I used to just freaking lie and say, oh, yeah, I get up. I mean, sometimes it wasn't even a lie because sometimes I literally would force myself to do the thing they say I needed to do to be successful. And it was so out of integrity with what my body wanted. And I kept trying to train myself and I kept trying to make it a habit. And it caused so much stress that it became counterproductive for me. It became a source of stress for me. And so this is all to say, do you trust yourself enough to be right in how you are? Do you trust yourself enough to know yourself, first of all, and know how you work optimally? Now, this goes for not just working. This goes for how you eat, how you move your body, how you show up in relationship, how you clean your house. I mean, gosh, we could go into any direction. But I'm using the example of being a morning person. It's like, do you know yourself enough? Are you self-aware enough to know what works for you? And then, my favorite topic, do you have the self-trust to allow yourself to release the shame and judgment about what works for everybody else to do what works for you? Do you? And so during this time of isolation, I have been allowing myself to be cognizant and discerning about the times that I want to sleep and the times that I want to get up and the times that I want to nap and the times that I feel creative and the times that I just want to sit there and pick my nose, quite frankly, or like, just daydream. Um, and I'll tell you, it's been changing my physiology. It's changing my energy. Just releasing all of that has given me so much more freedom, and just makes me feel just so good. And I'm getting more done. And I think I'm seeing a lot of yeses. Yes, this is me. Hi, Brett. Hi, Gary. Hi, Moon Goddess. I love that. Hi, Linda. Your mother's a morning person too, and you're a night owl. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that. Gosh, we've demonized. I mean, I could go into any area. Talk about breakfast. Like, how many of you were taught that you needed to have breakfast in the morning? That it was I was told my whole life that one of the main reasons that I couldn't lose weight is because I don't eat until a certain time and I don't get my metabolism going, the furnace going and burning. And so I'd wake up and I'd force myself to eat, and I'd be like, because I don't want to eat in the morning. I want my goddamn coffee, and that's all I want. And I finally released that story a couple of years ago, and I was like, I don't want to eat until about 11. Like, usually I just kind of don't want to. And now they're calling it intermittent fasting. And like, if I just trusted the rhythm of my body, this is what I naturally want to do. So it requires two components. It requires, number one, that you know yourself. You got to know yourself. And number two, that you trust yourself, that as you are is best for you. And there can be mounting evidence why it's good for 95% of the population, but maybe you're the 5% that works differently, that's wired differently. And yeah, it requires a little bit of honesty, right? It requires us to be honest with ourselves and say, is this really serving me? Another common one for me has been that I'm lazy. Like, I'm a procrastinator and I'm lazy, and I wait to the very last minute to get shit done. And I've done this with so many things in my life. It's like, I have all this time and I just wait. And then it's like the night before, or the morning of, boom. And then I hit it and I deliver it and I knock it out of the park. But there's this shame and this guilt about wasting time, about not being more organized, about not being more productive. And what I'm starting to realize is that I work really well under pressure. Like, I'm actually good at that. I'm instead of like prepping and preparing and overthinking and trying to make perfect, I'm actually really, really good at being in the moment. That's why my lives feel way more powerful than when I try to produce little video segments, which is how I used to run my videos for years. For those of you who've been following me, I used to like meticulously record the videos and then re-record and edit and re-record. And now I just know that if I come on live, that's how I wrote my Too Much Woman speech. That's how it's allowing, I'm trusting myself that this is how I best operate, and not to assume that everybody should do it my way, but knowing myself. And so I'm asking you to be in observance of yourself. Have some discernment, of course, because if you are a procrastinator and you never do anything and you spend the entire day, no judgment, but like literally, if you spend the entire day doing nothing, watching Netflix, and then you're wondering like, I don't know why I can't get anything done, you need a little discernment. So my question is, how's it working for you? And for me, what I noticed looking back is that it works pretty well for me to go to bed later, to sleep in a little bit, to have an ease into my morning. It takes me a little while. That's okay. There are things that I can ease my day into, like activity-wise, that make it acceptable for me, and to release the shame around that. Like, imagine not having the shame. And then when I release the shame around those things, I have this surge of energy. And that surge of energy is alignment. That surge of energy that you get when you're doing the thing that's true for you, that's alignment. And so when I'm able to create in the time that works for me, I always produce better results. It's like exercising first thing in the morning. I used to go for an early morning run. Used to cause so much stress for me. Like there's so much cortisol in my body. No wonder I wasn't feeling any better or seeing, it didn't work for me. And what works for me is to have an easier morning and then to go and do something physical. Um, I have parts in my day where I'm very creative and parts when I'm not, and not making that wrong. I mean, it's not a morning for me. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. Bev, I'm a morning person. Hi, Bev. Sometimes very early I used to fight it, but now I don't. Look for the reason. What's wrong? Why can't I sleep instead of just accepting? There. Okay, so there's the flip side. Like why can't I sleep in? Yeah, that's perfect. So glad you're talking about this. Great. I'm so glad. Hi, Greta again. We keep bumping into each other. If I prepare and plan too much, says Alex, it freaks me out worrying. Things are more organic if you just do them when they're due. Yeah, and keeping in mind that some people. So I'm going to be interviewing an awesome guy in about like half an hour around grief. His name's Roy. He's an expert in his field, and we were supposed to record yesterday. Full transparency, we were supposed to record yesterday, and I was having just a shit energy day. And I was like, Roy, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's shit. I can't do it. And he's like, he shows me, he calls me, and he has like sticky notes, and he's been prepping, and he's got books lined up, and he's like, he had to meticulously plan because that is his process. He's like, and I was like, oh, not me. I don't have a freaking note. Like I just intuitively go. And so it's honoring how you show up, and it's not right and it's not wrong and it's not a better way. It's not his way or her way or the highway. It's the way that works best for you. So it requires, if I were to put a 1-2-3 plan, because people love 1-2-3, know yourself. Number 2, trust yourself. And then number 3, use discernment, because let's not blanket this conversation with excusitis and say, oh, well, I'm just not going to do things because, that's just who I am. Is it working for you? Is it working for you? And I know that for me, this sleep pattern, this eating pattern, this creativity pattern works for me. And gosh, if the pandemic has brought me just that awareness alone to give myself permission to flow and be more in alignment with what works for me, well, thank you so much, COVID-19. And I will say this, I, as a corporate speaker, and hopefully corporate speaking comes back into my life. Right now, all my 2020 gigs are canceled, but when it comes back, if it's meant to come back, there are times when I will have to speak, do a 9:00 speaking gig. And that will require me to get up maybe at 5, to leave the house at 6, to travel. And so there are times I need to move into that space. But what I know is that when I have control over it, when I have interviews or when I have to do anything significant with work, I never book it first thing in the morning. I never do a coaching call like early in the morning. You will never talk to me early in the morning because I know myself. And I honor myself and I respect what I need to work optimally. So I love you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I'm challenging you today to think about ways that you can be more in alignment with what works for you and how you can be really honest with yourself about making it right for you. Make yourself right. I love you. Bye for now.